fight. We don't have to kill. Everybody in the whole wide world really just needs to chill. No, we don't have to fuss, no, we don't have to fight.
Hello, welcome back to Just Chill with Oliver George. It is episode 18. The light is on. My guest is here. Before we introduce them, though, I'm going to say please subscribe. And if you already have, thank you so much. If you're hearing this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please come check out the YouTube version and see what the geek room looks like. And finally, contact info if you have any ideas for cool guests or you just want to give some feedback about the show. That's justchillpodcasting@gmail.com. And now to the man of the hour, Thomas Cumberbatch, who another guy who used to go to high school with me, but that's not why you're here. That's just a little coincidence. But I guess I would primarily introduce you as a CEO and founder of your company, Godspeed. Godspeed?
Yeah, Godspeed.
That's it. With a Z, though.
Yeah.
Communications.
Yeah.
So you guys are a marketing and branding company, is what I've gathered, and you were also nominated for a Faces Magazine award.
Yeah, but, that was a lot of fun. A lot of times I struggle to explain to people exactly what we do, but how I characterize Godspeed, we're a business strategy and creative firm. And branding, marketing, photography, design, those are kind of tools. Those are the weapons that we
arsenal,
wield.
yeah.
That's
okay.
it. Yeah, but at the core, we help businesses build strategies that help them to grow, and we do that with art.
And actualizing what their company is really about.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I gathered from reading your stuff is that you guys are very much about getting people to sort of almost discovering stuff they may not even know about themselves and their own company yet.
100%.
Like getting to the bottom of the core of like, what are you about and what do you want to do with this and how do you want to reach people? And so I thought that was really cool, just even how you call your clients soul rebels, which is really awesome. Just the Bob Marley connection, obviously, but that's cool. Like the whole brand soul, finding this, what is the core here? So how did that get started though? Like, how did you get into this? It seems like not a strange thing to get into, but there must have been steps along the way that led you to running your own company. You know what I mean?
I'll try and give you the Coles notes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hey, you can take your time, man. We got time.
Well, I would start this story in probably 2009, which was the year that I realized that kind of my dream of becoming a professional football player wasn't going to happen. And I went through this kind of identity crisis. I was always kind of Thomas the football player. Even in high school, when we went to high school
I remember
together,
that kind of, yeah. You were the sports dude. Yeah.
I was Thomas the football player. I mean, I played other sports, but, that was the one that everybody knew I loved. And, I was fortunate enough to play in university. I had an opportunity to play in Chicago after university. I played in the Arena Football League for a little bit.
Nice.
I had what I call a cup of coffee. It was real quick. I came back here. I worked out with the BC Lions and the Toronto Argonauts.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't get signed. And I realized that, you know what, this is done. I woke up one day and I just knew inside my spirit that was it. And I went through a little bit of a depression, to be honest. I couldn't get out of bed.
Well, that can be unnerving, feeling like your identity just went out the window for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened. For me, I'd placed so much importance on football that I forgot about me, like who I really am.
Yeah, who
right?
am I at the bottom of this? Yeah.
Exactly. And I started asking myself questions like, outside of playing football, when was I the happiest? And it's funny because that whole football experience actually led me into this, because my coaches used to basically throw me a few bones to create the end of the year highlight film, because every year we had something called the Purple and Silver Banquet, where a bunch of recruits from all over the country would come for a weekend at winter homecoming, which is the basketball team's homecoming. Okay. And we would host them in this amazing banquet and convince them to come to Bishop's.
Oh, cool.
And we'd play a video there that recapped the season. And every year they would get me to do it. And that was my first experience with video
and editing
and stuff like that. And I mean, I would stay up for literally I'd stay up for 2 days, because typically, I'd find out 3 or 4 days before that they want me to do it, and it's this date, and
big cram session.
And I just big cram session, and we just I just stay up and we get this stuff done. And at the time, I mean, you're dealing with slow computers. You render a video, it takes like 8 hours.
You're preaching to the choir right now, man, because like our editing software is kind of if you have too many things going on at once, it starts freezing up right when you're finally making progress, and it can be very frustrating to say the least. Yeah,
exactly. So imagine, you're putting out a 5 or 6 minute video, and it's taking, half the day. It's taking 7 hours.
Yeah.
You got to sleep and then
At
wake
some
up
point.
and make sure that didn't freeze,
Yeah.
But anyhow, what ended up happening was, in that time when I realized that football wasn't going to be a thing, I kind of jogged back to that time. I was like, I had a lot of fun doing that. I majored in English. I have a minor in film and business. And I just remember loving my film courses. I got into, I've been naturally created to think like a director.
Okay.
And I did really well, and I had a lot of fun. So I said, I'm going to start a film company, a production company. And
nice.
I said, hey, Pops, you know what? I have no money. Do you mind spotting me some money? I want to buy a camera.
The Just Chill method. Right, Dad? A little bit.
That's funny.
No, you can relate. No. Hey, man,
course.
parents, I don't look at that and go, oh, I'm a loser, or like I'm lame because I need to get some help from my dad. I go, wow, my dad's awesome, and like how blessed I am to have such a nice family, and that Incredible. I can reach for that when I need that help,
Incredible.
So yeah. So thanks, Dad. So that's interesting. You wouldn't think that sports would lead to that shift, because a lot of the time you get sports are known as like the meatheads who wouldn't be seen dead in an AV room, So that's a very interesting progression that happened there. Before we move on, though, I wanted to point out when you said sort of losing your identity, I think that happens to like a lot of real athletes, like professional, like big time, they play for 10 years in the NHL or whatever the sport is, and then they're like, who am I after this,
Yep.
And they get washed up.
Yeah.
It's kind of dark a little bit. You have to have a backup plan and have, some identity beyond that.
Big time. And you know what's, thank God, like right now, we're in a different era where people are starting to realize that there is life after all these things that we think we are.
Whatever you're obsessed with.
And they're starting to, to implement mechanisms that help these athletes today to understand, hey, there's life after football, and you need to make sure that your finances are on point.
Have a balanced transition kind of. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, at the level that I was at, there wasn't anybody around to really help me with that, especially given the fact that I wasn't actually playing on a team. I was just I was a free agent with an agent trying to get a gig, so to speak.
You were good enough to have an agent, though, right? That's something.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun, man. You know what? I had some successes. I finished off, as a conference all-star. I was nominated as an All-Canadian, and
wow.
It was, I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I had read when I was doing some research that you were like the captain of the football team in your university, Bishops.
Yeah.
So that's.
I was one of the captains.
I was going to say that must tie into your being able to be a CEO and be in a leadership role, because there must be so much pressure being the captain of a university football team. Like, I know it's just a game or whatever, but a lot of people care.
Oh yeah, big time. And the thing with that is, it's not just, people think leadership is about telling other people what to do, but it really is about modeling those principles and precepts yourself, right? So I spent a lot of time trying to be all the things that I would encourage my comrades to be.
Like lead by example, yeah.
100%. And I was blessed enough to have a really incredible university coach. His name is Leroy Blue. He's actually the defensive line coach for the Red Blacks. And, he was the type of person where if I wasn't leading by example, he wasn't afraid to tell me that I wasn't leading by example. So having people around you who are honest really help shape you and shape your identity big time, and to help you to live into your identity. But really what was happening with me is, I said, hey, Pops, I need to buy a camera. And at the time it was kind of like, 2008, Canon released the 5D, the Canon 5D or 5D Mark II. And that had video capability, and really good video capability. At the time, 1080p was on point.
That was cutting
full
edge.
HD, right? And so I got a camera that wasn't the 5D Mark II, but was something similar to that.
Like a knockoff version or something? Or?
Well, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it's a knockoff, but it was a Canon 60D. So the 5D was probably, the body was probably $2,500, close to $3,000, and the body for my camera was
a little
like
more of an economy version. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
But still decent.
Yeah,
for the time. Probably garbage now.
Oh yeah, now it's nothing. But I ended up literally just using that camera, and I built a production company with that little camera.
Wow.
And my first contract was a company in Chicago called Gorilla Strength. And while I was training, I wanted like a really solid pair of exercise bands. Like these were like 400 or 500 pounds of resistance. These were amazing bands.
Wow.
And this company in Chicago made them, and I sent them an email and said, like, this product is so good. Why in the world don't you have any videos on YouTube? Like, this is such a great product. And they said, well, you know anybody who could create them for us? And I was like, well, I can.
Oh,
so
a little light goes off there. Yeah.
At the time, I didn't even know how much to charge. Like, I had no idea what someone charged for videos for a company. I did 3 commercials.
How did you figure that out? You just like picked a random number and hoped?
Kind of. I was like, you know what? Let me here's one of Dad's repayments. You know, like I thought about it that way.
Well, how does it affect your life? Like, what do you need? Kind of. Yeah. Okay, that's a fair way of doing it. As long as you're not like insane, like asking 5 times more than the industry standard or something.
Well, I charged $500 for those 3 commercials, and I mean,
so you probably went under. You probably could have got more.
Oh, a lot more.
Yeah,
a lot more. And I shot them. Basically, I shot them all myself. I used my buddies as the actors. I got them to send me a bunch of like sets of bands so that I could use them in different ways in the commercials.
Oh, awesome.
You know, one thing led to another. I put it out on Facebook. And next thing you know, someone's saying, hey, my dad has a business. Can you help him? You know, a buddy wants to start a business. You know, I'm helping them. And at the time I was working for Canada Post. It was kind of Godspeed's first contract. We were working in social media with them. And I was creating AM and PM reports every day during the strike between, 2010 and 2011, 12-ish. And I reported to the director of social media. And, while I was at Canada Post, I was able to work with some of the people at Canada Post as well because they had side hustles.
Oh,
so
cool.
It was cool. I built Godspeed that way. And
you were handling all of Canada Post's social media?
Well, no, I wasn't handling all the social media, but I was a part of the social media team. And it was one of the first major corporations to have a social media department.
Oh, okay.
And
they were trying to be ahead of the curve a little bit, yeah.
Yes. So my responsibility, I was almost like a digital spy. My responsibility was to track Canada Post mentions all over digital media and alert 76 of their labor relations execs so they could use the intel from the street to bargain with the union, Cup W. And my reports were, people would come to my desk and be like, you have no idea what your reports are doing, at the bargaining table. Like, they're like, kudos to you. And I remember I used to sleep on my phone. I had a bunch of Google alerts. Anytime Canada Post was mentioned, I would get an alert. Because if something crazy happened in the middle of the night, I would actually have to send a report out to the basically the CEO, Deepak Chopra at the time, the VP of Communications, Joanne Polak, John Hamilton, and Nick Lozier. These are all people who ran the communications.
Sounds like stressful to some degree if you can't sleep properly.
It was, but you know what? I loved it because I'd come off the football field. And coming off the football field, I like kind of lost my sense of purpose. This was a situation where I walk into a job where it's like, if I don't do my job, then people kind of get hurt. So
same as football, yeah.
Exactly.
So you like the high stakes sort of.
Yeah, that's my personality. I was an offensive lineman. I protect the quarterback. I was a left tackle as well. So, that's really high stakes. You're playing on an island with that defensive end. But I loved it. I loved the pressure. I loved being put in a position where, I needed to govern myself in a way that delivered results. And I'm still that way. I enjoy leading our team at Godspeed today.
You seem like you grind real hard, yeah.
Yeah. It's in my DNA.
And you're a man of many hats, it seems, too.
Yes, I have a lot of these hats.
Oh, yeah. Figuratively speaking, you know what I mean?
No, of course.
So now that you've explained a bit more about your company, I wanted to point out too, did you co-found this with your wife? Or you co-run it with her or something? Or she's a part of the company as well, right?
She definitely is. So I started it on my own in my parents' basement. But over the years, I got married in 2012, and that's when my wife and I kind of moved in together. And of course, she has her job, and then mine is our company. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where when you're building a business, especially an agency, this particular type of business has so many small parts. It's such an intricate business because you're responsible for the success of someone else's business. And it's very hard when you don't have someone teaching you how to do it to figure that all out. You're trying to build your own business, let alone someone else's.
Your business is a bunch of little businesses and helping them, and they've all got their own approach and different needs.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very true.
So it's been very difficult. And the funny thing is that my wife majored in communications. She's had a very successful, like university career. She ended up getting a great job in the government, and she actually was like my coach. She taught me how to write my first proposal. She told me that I couldn't talk to people on my team like I was on the football field. She really helped me with etiquette and perspective, and she taught me how to identify opportunities, and she helped me to leverage my skills and my abilities. And she's very special. Of course, she's my wife, and she's special.
Yeah, I didn't know if she had like a formal title within the company or not.
Well, right now she's really our head of accounts, and
Okay.
we're kind of making a transition where she's going to eventually be kind of working in the company full time at some point. But
That's awesome though.
But yeah,
Because the point I was going to bring up is not that not everyone could work with their wife. You know what I mean?
well, it's not easy. It's tough, and it's probably tougher for her.
Yeah.
because I'm a hard headed dude, but at the same time,
she loves you. She's got your back.
Yeah, big time.
I think working with your significant other, it would have to be like if you were very like all day in close proximity. That would grain on anybody probably, because then I don't know. It's just, excuse my language, but don't shit where you eat, they say, like,
Of course.
because then you want to go home and that person's still there. You're like, but, okay. So the company's going very well, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But what kind of projects that you've helped bring into fruition have really had a big impact on you?
That's a great question.
There must be a lot of them, I would assume.
A lot of them,
Yeah.
because we really specialize in working with brands that are purpose driven. So if you're selling widgets and doodads, like I'll never take your contract on. Like if all you want to do is make money,
Yeah.
we'll never take your contract on.
Just
because
chill out some. Yeah.
our entire process is engineered to pull out like the deepest depths of your being, and then literally use that as a tool and leverage that to design your operations, your systems, your sales processes, your marketing strategies, your growth strategies, culture strategies. The whole purpose is to ingrain that into all of those things so that every aspect of your business has purpose. And that's
And
for
should
us.
flow more naturally if it's set up around you and your true values.
Exactly. And for me, that's what, and my team, that's what a brand is. A lot of people think that brands are logos and colors. A brand is the promise that you make to the world every day in every aspect of your business. A brand is not your logo. Or
at least not solely. I mean, your logo can be part of your brand, but I understand the message you're trying to say.
Well, that's design.
Yeah,
Truth,
that's true.
Mike, I always ask this question: could a company exist without a logo?
Depends on the company, maybe, but I would say arguably yes.
Yeah, a business owner chooses to have a logo.
Yeah,
You don't really have to have a logo.
that's true.
And there are businesses that don't have a logo and make millions of dollars.
Oh yeah.
There are shops, mechanic shops, that people know that Jim is a
or
mechanic.
it's something. Yeah, John's mechanic shop, and it's like the most boring sign ever.
Exactly.
That no one's
It's
gonna.
just a sign.
Yeah, it's
right?
not a logo. Yeah, that's
it's
true.
It's an emblem because logo design is design. Like that's design. That's one aspect. It's a tool you use to communicate your brand. Your brand is your ethos. It's something much deeper than that. And that's why for us, we use the word soul because it's that deep. And what we do is, I tell to people all the time, I use this analogy, is that we help businesses and organizations and even individuals to develop a solid or a healthy brand anatomy. And a brand anatomy is broken up with three pieces. It's the soul, it's the mind, and the body. The soul is your identity. It's who you are. It's your guts. It's like it's the first thing that forms when we come to being, so to speak.
Okay.
That's I think this is my purpose. It's the center of identity. I call it the CNS, the central nervous system of any brand, is its soul.
Okay.
The mind is the strategies. It's the operation strategies. It's the processes and procedures. It's the product and service offering. It's your culture strategy. It's your sales strategy. It's all of the mechanisms and all of the strategies that a business has in order to make a business real, to be able to deliver a product.
Okay.
And the body is everything that you would see from the outside. The body is the thing that communicates who the soul and the mind of this business is.
So that's where some logos might come into play. Yeah.
Exactly.
So just in the body. Okay.
Exactly. So for us, what we specialize in, and I think what we do better than many out there, is we transport the soul into the mind and the body. So we go through this process called the Soul Guide process, and really that's kind of like our flagship product. It's an actual hardcover bound book. It could range anywhere between 70 and 170 pages, and it's a company's identity in a book. Oh. And that becomes the foundation for everything that the company
it's
thinks
like their mission statement,
says.
kind of.
Well, the mission is definitely in there.
Yeah.
It's in the first. It's in the first section. It's 3 sections. It's in the brand identity section, and I mean, it's every aspect of the company. Anything you can think of. I put it this way: there are companies. So some of our clients use it to hire people. They use it to solve organizational disputes. They use
to be clear about, like, what are we, guys?
Exactly.
What are we doing here? Yeah, no, that's actually very smart.
So that's what we do first. We establish the soul with that process, and that can take anywhere from 3 months to a year and a half, depending on the size of the business.
Wow.
But
and what they do, I would assume also factors in what kind of a business it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole section called products and services, and that is like that section obsesses over what they do and what the value proposition is, the problem that their product or service solves, and how they're memorable through their product and service. Right. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's what we do. And, so I have friends like who I've been friends with for like 30 years, 25 years. They still don't know what I do because, they see me shooting the Olympic campaign for the diving team, and they're like, "Oh, you're a photographer." And then they see me in some boardroom training a sales team, and they're like, "You're like a sales team trainer." But anyhow.
Yeah, they think it's vague, but really it's just you're doing lots of different things. It sounds like you're just a jack of all trades kind of guy. And you found a way to work it all within the same company, which is really fantastic.
That's right.
Yeah. Sorry. So to get back to the question though, like, what is one of these things that you've helped bring into fruition though, and why did that sort of have an impact on you?
So, I mean, not
to put you on the spot.
No, that's cool. It's cool. Let me tell you about this special project. Okay, it was a pro bono project.
Okay.
So I get a call one day at about 1:00 in the afternoon, and this amazing lady, Clarissa Arthur, she says, "Hi, Thomas. You might remember me. My name is Clarissa. I'm the communications lead at the Uville Center. The year before that, the Ottawa Catholic School Board hired us to shoot this kind of short film on this girl who is a young mom. The Uville Center helps young moms.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. Sorry, I wasn't familiar with the Uville Center. Okay.
Yeah, they support young moms and help them kind of get their education and finish their education and things like that. So
that's
awesome. They do great work. And the Ottawa Catholic School Board was giving this girl an award who just happened to be a young mom at the Uville Center. And we created this short film, and Clarissa was responsible for making sure that this production company wasn't like making this girl uncomfortable. Our time with them was amazing. We started to develop a bond, and I guess we had developed enough of a bond where she felt like she could trust me with a very serious issue. So I said, "Of course I remember you. Like, how are things? What's going on?" She goes, "Well, I'm okay, but things aren't great." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, CTV did a piece with our girls, and they were they were giving some advice to other young girls saying, hey, you know what? Like, you need to really know who you are because you can end up in a situation where you're 14 and you're pregnant. You need to know that, that your worth is not governed by what boy likes you."
Yeah. And sex is still going to be there in a few years. It's not going anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what ended up happening was those girls got major backlash from like even adults.
Wow.
People were like, like who the heck are these little sluts? Tell my daughter
that she can't.
And
get
look at
fingered or something like that.
Crazy.
Yeah, it seems like a kind of a positive message that most parents would be behind, like depending on the age of your kid or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of an insane overreaction, if you ask me.
Yeah, and that really hurt the girls. The girls were really, really embarrassed. People went on their personal channels and were making fun of them, and a lot
cyberbullying and stuff.
Big time cyberbullying.
Well, they're just trying to like use their own struggle that they went through to help someone maybe make the right choices to not end up in, like, it doesn't mean if you're a teen mom, you're a horrible person or something, but it's like, here's people who are going through it saying, like, this wasn't easy, and you don't have to. You can make some choices to not end up like this. And, like, what is negative about that? I don't know. That seems kind of crazy to shame these people for that, but
that perplexed our team like crazy. Like, I just don't know. Like, but you know what? It's kind of spoke
trolls
to
and haters too, man.
Big time. It spoke to the condition of the human heart. You know, some people are just evil, you know, and upset
Or misguided.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a lot more than evil. I think pure evil is hard to find.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Hitler was evil. Like, you know,
Right.
there's a lot of people are just misguided, or they've been themselves victimized to a point where, like, it's their brain, especially when people are young and they get, you know, abused by someone. It's when your brain is still developing and that kind of trauma is inflicted. It can, I think, just mess someone up on a biological level where they don't have a good, not a good brain, but like there's some damage there, you know.
Huge. And it's funny. I think you're spot on, because when you look at some of those comments, the first reaction actually isn't you're evil. It's you're not right. Like, there's something off.
Yeah.
Right. So, anyhow, what ended up happening was, she said, you know, I watched the way that you worked with, you know, our former student. I feel like you could help these young girls get their voice back. And World Anti-Bullying Day is a week away. What can you do?
Once again, a cram session.
Cram session.
Yeah, that's awesome, though.
Cram session, man. You have no idea how much of a cram session that was. What I end up doing, I mean, I do it to myself. It's funny. I asked my team, I said, do you think that I should do this, that we should do this? And at the time, our account manager / project manager, who didn't really have a lot of experience, he actually came on and like, I brought him on and kind of started, I taught him the ropes and brought him into the industry. He was like, look, you're too busy. Don't do it. Absolutely not. Like, you won't be able to deliver it. Don't do it. And I asked another, you know, at the time, a member of our team, and he said, he goes, I've known you since we were young. He's like, you need to really figure out if you want to do it, because if you want to do it, you're just going to do it.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? I was like, I need to do this, because this is an opportunity to, like, impact a lot of lives.
Yeah.
So what I did is, well, you know, our project manager at the time decided, look, I'm out. Don't ask me for any help. I'm not going to help you with this, because I don't think we should be doing it, and I've got a lot of other work to do. I'm like, no problem, man. So what I did is I started work at 6:00 every day that week in the morning. And after work, so let's say 5:30, when the studio closed, I would work till about 8 or 9. And I would work on the project at the butt ends of the day. And I was able to bring on some partners. So there's a company called K Collective. They're a great film production company. They do amazing work, and some of them are personal friends as well. They're personal friends of ours as well.
Cool.
So they came into it as well to help. But what I ended up doing is building an entire campaign called We're Winning. And we came up with a little bit of a brand strategy. We sorted out their tone of voice and their brand personality. We designed a logo and their look and feel, a website. We shot 3 videos. If you go to we'rewinning.ca, it's still up.
Okay.
And this was about 2 or 3 years ago. What ended up happening was we were able to help give these girls a voice. And what they were saying, basically the story they were telling was, they're saying, look, I've got a child, and I'm a child, and guess what? I'm still winning. And that's what it was. It was like a giant, middle finger to everybody who was talking trash about them.
Trying to write them off.
Yeah. It's like, look, you're spending your time on social media tearing me down, and I'm raising this human being. We're winning.
Yeah.
And that was the attitude behind the campaign. And it was crazy, because when we went in to actually launch the campaign on World Anti-Bullying Day, we finished everything. Man, I had no idea. The news broadcast cameras busted in.
Oh, yeah?
And my company has never had more PR or pub ever. My phone was ringing the whole night. Yeah. My friends were like, dude, I just saw you on TV. It was crazy.
Well, it makes sense. It's a powerful statement, and it affects a lot of people.
Yeah. And I just had no idea that was going to happen. And it was an emotional room, and the girls were crying. So when you ask
me... Their babies are crying.
Yes, exactly. You're funny.
Thanks. I tried.
But, honestly, that I've worked on a lot of projects, a lot of meaningful work that one stands out as one that, if I could only tell the story of one project, it'd be that one. Because that project, I think, exemplifies the power of the human soul. And really that's what we're after. We're like soul hunters. We're like soul chasers.
It's cool way to look at it. Yeah, man.
And that project really did a lot for us. That's a project that stands out and one that's close to our hearts. It was quick and it was a lot smaller than most of our work. I mean, one of our clients is the National Diving Federation, so the Olympic diving team, and we've done so much for them, from soul guide to website, multiple photo shoots. We've designed their swag that they wear on pool deck.
Cool.
We've come up with their slogan, all kinds of things, right? And that's meaningful work. I love that work. But although this We're Winning project was so much smaller, the level of impact in the lives of the people we're working for was so high that it literally gave me life. It gave me life. And everywhere I go, I speak all over the place. And this, even up till October this year, I was speaking in California at one of the largest social finance conferences in the world. It's called SOCAP, and I was on a really cool stage, and I spoke about this project. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy that you get to carry that around with you now. It's always going to be a piece of you and your vision for your company. You can always look back on that and remember how you were able to impact so many people. That's amazing, man. There's another thing I saw on your Instagram, and I think you had written that someone else started this, but it was an initiative you were involved in called the Black Boys Code.
Yes.
And I just thought that was really cool because you're trying to keep people from getting into the wrong shit and remind them that like they can prosper and they can.
Of course.
So I don't know if you could tell me about that a little bit more, because
Sure.
I did only kind of see it, briefly. I didn't investigate too deep on that one.
Well, that's a recent thing. So we launched that in Ottawa. Well, our first workshop in Ottawa was in November, and I was contacted by the founder, Brian Johnson. Just a really cool cat. He's from Vancouver. He's actually from Hamilton, and then moved out to, I believe it was Calgary when he was younger to work, and then he ended up in Vancouver. But he reached out to me on LinkedIn and was like, "Listen, I'm doing this Black Boys Code thing." He goes, "I've kind of tracked you a little bit. I've done a little bit of research, and I think that you'd be great. You're the right candidate to basically be the chapter leader for Ottawa."
Sort of spearhead this thing, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm also on some other boards, and I decided to leave them for this.
Oh, wow.
And the reason why is because I was that little black boy, I grew up at the corner of Saint Laurent and Donald.
Which we know is kind of a shifty neighborhood at times, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially when I was growing up. Now it's not so bad. My parents still live there, and I'm like, what neighborhood's this? Like, I didn't grow up in this neighborhood.
It's been gentrified a bit.
Yeah. And, when I was growing up, it was a really tough neighborhood, man. You talk to any police officer that was around in the 90s. And
Even later than that, I remember I lived on somewhere off of Cummings, like closer to Montreal Road, but I remember going there like to get to Saint Laurent or whatever, and seeing cop cars a lot, especially near the high rises there.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
it was
Donald Building. Oh yeah, that's iconic.
A bit of and I grew up like a sheltered, privileged white boy too, so I was probably like afraid of that kind of a situation much more than the average person. Like I didn't know shit about street smarts. I mean, when I started smoking weed, I kind of got some of that, but I realize now, looking back, how much of like a sheltered, privileged white boy life I must have had compared to some people. But anyways, so to carry on, you grew up in that kind of a scary situation at times.
Yeah, but for me, it wasn't actually scary because that's all I knew. I was born in that house, so I grew up just.
Well, yeah, you're not the sheltered white cat. That's me. So yeah, no. But either way, it was not the safest neighborhood.
No, and it was. But you know what? If we're talking about Black Boys Code, it's for Black Boys Code. It's not even necessarily that these black boys are all in bad neighborhoods. I think it's bigger than that. It's more of a systemic thing where I could be a kid. For instance, my kids, they've been born and raised in a really nice neighborhood. Yeah, so I live in Orleans. I live in a suburb. I live in a nice home. My wife and I, do pretty well for ourselves. My kids I can basically give them anything they ask for.
Well, and when you were younger, if you were going to Colonel By, you were it was kind of like a rich school to a degree.
Oh, yeah, to a degree.
And a very whitewash.
Yeah. And my parents made sure that I went there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because they didn't want me to go to Rideau High School, right? So,
Or Gloucester.
Yes, exactly. But you know, I got the opportunity to launch it here, and I'll tell you something. Like when you think about technology, you know, is one of the most influential facets or aspects of our cultures. And if you don't have an equal stake or voice in the way that technology is progressing, then what will end up happening is that your voice will continue to erode. And when we talk about kind of social capital and we talk about, you know, social ownership, when we talk about having an equitable landscape, you need to make sure that all cultures are able to communicate their value and to share who they are.
Have the same opportunities.
And have the same opportunities. Yeah. And, you know, that's not the case for not just black boys, but for black people in general. And I think what needs to happen is that we all, and see, this is what I tell people this all the time. Black Boys Code might focus on young black boys, but it's a community initiative. So we all need to invest, whether you're Asian, whether you're white, whether you're black, we need to invest in these boys because there are gems and diamonds that aren't found when our systems aren't equitable. And I get an opportunity as somebody who is in business, who works in tech as well, because a lot of what we do, a lot of the product we create for clients, a lot of the services we do are digital services, you know,
tech-driven stuff.
Tech-driven stuff. You know, I get an opportunity to invest in these young boys who are just like me, man. And it's funny because the first workshop was at Carleton, and most of these boys were Somali, you know, and I know that some of their parents are like first generation Canadians, but some of those parents were like their moms were from Somalia, like they came from Somalia to here, right? So these kids are the first generation Canadians, and I know that it's not easy because my mom and my dad weren't born here, and I'm a first generation Canadian, right? So I know what some of those struggles are like, and you know, typically in our cultures, not just on our neighborhoods, but in the cultures that we come from, you know, within the African diaspora, like parents aren't necessarily saying you need to learn code. You know, a lot of times they're saying you need to become a doctor, or a lawyer. You know, and there is great value in having the ability to leverage technology to do whatever it is that you want, even as a doctor or a lawyer. If you're a doctor or a lawyer and you understand code, you can build apps, you can build tools, you can do all kinds of things that change the way that people interact with you, that transform. So Black Boys Code is extremely important. It's very, very, very important, and it's important to me. Yeah.
Right on, man. Yeah, no, it sounds like a great initiative to be a part of. So I was going to say, because I've noticed, obviously, that you're a spiritual person yourself. I kind of wanted to go on a wild tangent, if you'll humor me, because it's a story that I've only ever told a couple people. Because I should, full disclosure, I'm not religious per se, but I'm also not like an atheist. I guess it's agnostic is when you believe in there's something there. Right. You know, I can't write off God or whatever you want to call that higher power.
Right.
But this one thing that happened to me, I don't know if it made me believe in God more, but it definitely made me go like, whoa, there's some freaky shit going on beyond like this mortal coil that we shuffle upon, you know? So I haven't had a lot of death in my life. And my mom, when she was growing up, her parents had some friends that owned a farm. So they basically became like my mom's like aunt and uncle kind of characters. She would go spend the summer with them, whatever.
Right.
So my mom's mom died. And then this lady that she used to go visit died. And my mom called me and told me, hey, you know, Lenore passed away. And I was like, okay, well, that's, you know, I was bummed. She was a really nice lady. I had a lot of fond memories stopping at her place going as a child, you know.
Yeah.
And then my mom said, oh, well, you know, I asked her, how are you handling it? And she said, well, I'm obviously sad, but like I was looking out my window and I saw a blue jay come and land in the backyard. And I was like, okay, like, congratulations. Like, how does that factor into what we're talking about? But then she goes, no, like, I've in my mind, I've heard, she had read something that said that there's people who believe that spirits will communicate through animals or other means, like signs and symbols, you know?
Right.
And so to her, for whatever reason, there was a connection there with this lady who had died. And she was like, no, I saw this blue jay, and it kind of gave me this calm feeling, like she was communicating with me, letting me know it was okay, you know? So I was kind of like, okay, Mom, sure, whatever makes you feel better. You know, I thought she sounded kind of nuts, honestly. Sorry, Mom. And so I went and took the dogs for a walk, literally 5 minutes later, right? And I'm coming around, just coming back to my front door, and no word of a lie, a blue jay flies and lands on like the frame of my door and stares at me. Like as far as we are apart right now, like maybe a foot higher, just stares me down like, stop. Like, I'm a blue jay. And coincidences be as they may, I think I even ended up seeing another one. And then, you know, yeah, he just kind of flew up onto the roof, looked back, or she or whatever, and just looked back one time. And I don't know, that sounds like ridiculous maybe, but I can't really describe the feeling that came along with it. It was very weird. It was very like, it didn't feel like a bird. Beyond the fact that it was staring me down was kind of weird. The fact that this blue jay just landed there. But even when it was up on the roof looking back, it was like, it felt like it wasn't that bird though, you know?
Right.
Okay, so that in itself, not that crazy, kind of crazy, gets weirder. Okay, so the funeral, I know you're the guest. I'm sorry. This is
No,
like
I love it. I love this is good. This is good.
So about like, I don't know, two weeks later or something, my mom's like, the funeral's coming up and it's this date, you know, and I checked my calendar and I saw, okay, I can't go because work or whatever and family stuff, like it just wasn't doable. And I felt really bad because I had wanted to go, and I told my mom that, and my mom and my dad said, oh, you know, she was the sweetest lady. She would be happy knowing you just even thought about it and that you really wanted to be there, you know, like if she's out there, she knows, you know. So they tried to comfort me, make me not feel so bad about it. When my mom goes there, she said that the son of this lady who died said, hey, we have some of the paintings that she had been doing like her whole life or whatever, and we thought you might want to take one as sort of like a piece of memento. And it was a painting of a freaking blue jay.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Like, you can't even write this shit, right?
Wow.
And again, I'm full disclosure, I'm not super religious or whatever you want to call it, but that was some eerie shit that made me go like, wow, there's gotta be, how many coincidences can you stack on top of each other before it's like, no, this isn't a coincidence. There's something at play here, you know? So anyways, I don't know why I wanted to share that story, but it was...
I'm glad you did. That's a great story.
It's crazy, man. Like,
and I've had my people, anybody who knows me really well who's watching this is probably laughing right now. I've got some pretty crazy ones as well.
like, are we talking like similar type of spooky stuff?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not spooky. It's how you view it, I guess. Because for me, it was comforting, kind of, you know. But
well, of course. And I mean, like, I believe in the whole animal thing. I mean, even when you take the situation after, at least in the Bible, when Jesus was baptized, the first thing that happens after he comes out of the water is a dove lands on his head, and he hears a voice from heaven that says, you know, that I'm pleased with you. You know, this is my son with whom I am well pleased. You know, so just
I learned this stuff when I was a kid in Catholic school, but I do not remember that was the first thing that happened.
Yeah, it's the first thing that happened.
Interesting.
You know, a dove. You know, and that's why the dove is a symbol of peace. And
oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That symbology is cool.
Yeah.
Oh, you seem well versed. I did want to ask you. You talked about this a little before we started recording, but you specifically, you've mentioned that you were into audiovisual stuff, but you had or have still a photography company as well. Tommy Bokeh, or how do I say the second
Tommy
part?
Bokeh.
Bokeh.
Yeah.
Bokeh.
Yeah, but it's bokeh. Like, so it's a Japanese term. Bokeh in photography is basically, I'll try to explain it simply. So basically, you know when you take a picture and something is in focus?
Yeah.
And then you might see like street lights and they turn to little colored balls?
Yeah.
Kind of blurry in the background?
Yeah.
That's bokeh.
Oh, okay.
That's bokeh.
Interesting.
And you know what? Photography company, my personal photography company, I'm not really, although I haven't kind of shut everything down, like you'll see wedding photography on there and whatnot, I'm almost kind of keeping it just as like a reminder of my work.
Oh, okay.
But I don't do that anymore.
Not actively pursuing it in a big way.
No. And I don't shoot that much anymore, although I love it. And it's just it's a gift. I really believe it's a gift. I learned it really fast. Like I got pretty good at it very fast.
But it seems like you always or very quickly learn to apply it to like practical use with companies and branding and stuff like that, as opposed to our previous guest, like Peter, who's more of like the artistic, angle.
Yes.
We talked about that in that episode, how photography is very interesting because it's one of the few things that's like it rides that line between art and practicality, and you can kind of take the most boring picture that's in no way supposed to be artistic and it's like a passport photo, or you can, create a masterpiece, National Geographic, amazing photo shot.
Yes.
it's always great when you bring up points that you've already talked about in a previous episode. One thing I want to ask you, because we always ask people here with the nerd wall of inspiration, is if you were to be given a superhuman ability right now, and I'm not talking about becoming a character like Spider-Man or something, but just one gift, as you might call it, what would that be and why? And not flying, because that's so boring. Everyone goes there, you know?
You know what? It would be I would have healing powers.
I figured you might say something like this.
Yeah, I'd have healing powers. And the way the healing powers that I would love to have, most people think about it as, okay, someone's sick and you make them better.
Yeah.
For me, I'd be able to heal people's hearts.
Oh, so like emotional damage and trauma and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Wow, that's really deep.
Yeah.
You'd be probably the most well-liked person on the planet. Everyone, your lineup would be like out the door. You have like a psychiatry clinic going on or whatever. Fix everybody's problems. Man, I don't know what to say to that other than that's very nice. That seems like the nicest one anyone said so far as just like helping people.
Yeah, I think I think we are our hearts. You know, heart and soul is all the same to me. And I think that the world is in a rough place when it's in a rough place because of the human heart, and I think the world is beautiful because of the human heart. You know, when I look at, I learn a lot from my kids. I got 2 boys.
Okay.
Justice is 4 years old.
Okay.
He's my first, and my second, his name is Journey, and he's 2 years old.
Those are cool names.
Thank you.
Why the J names? Is there?
That wasn't on purpose.
No. Oh, okay.
Everybody asked me that.
Yeah.
That was not on purpose. The J names, because my Justice's name was something that I've been thinking about for a while, and so was my wife. But Journey's
that sounds
name,
like a tough chick.
well, you know what? I'll tell you something.
Oh wait, no, you said 2 boys.
2 boys.
Sorry, my bad. But
Yeah.
either way, it sounds like a tough name, Justice.
And honestly, he's got his personality is his name. He's very bold. He's quick to tell you when something's right and when it's wrong. He really lives into his name. It's incredible.
If he ever becomes a sports star, like imagine he's like slam dunking or something. Justice puts down the hammer, something like that. You know, he'd have some kind of crazy. Oh man,
I love it. That's good. That's your comedian side. Just boom. That was
while
quick.
we're at it, Journey. I was gonna say that's hilarious when they're a teenager because when they're going out the door, you'd be like, Journey, where are you going? It's kind of like a
That's good. That's good. So yeah, so I learned a lot from them, and it's funny. Kids are so innocent, but from the moment that they're born, you see both sides of the human heart in kids. Because a kid will tell you 1 second that they love you, they're hugging you, and the next second, like they don't want to share.
sometimes they get attitude. Yeah.
Oh, I call my kids my lion cubs. Even in my LinkedIn bio, you'll see a reference to my lion cubs, because they have scratches all over their face like lions, and that's what they're doing to each other. And I kid you not, I remember one day they were fighting, and they were literally standing like in front of each other, and they're just scratching each other, and like deep cuts, man, on their face. So I get upset because I'm like, dude, it's
those
your
nails.
face. You'd be surprised when you look at their nails, and they're not that long, but they're putting them out. They're
with enough force, you're still gonna scratch. Yeah.
exactly. But they're doing that 1 second, and the next second, after we kind of break them up and reprimand them, discipline them a little bit. The older one says, I'm sorry, brother, I love you. And the other one's like, oh, it's okay. And they're hugging each other. And
You're like, get the camera.
I'm going, that is humanity, man.
Yeah, man.
Like we just have 2 sides. Like that's what it is. And the side that's not as favorable causes some damage that's really hard to repair.
Yeah.
Heart issues are hard to repair. And that's why I love the work I do at Godspeed, because I get to work with people who have heart issues, and they give me permission to go to a place where we can help solve some of those heart issues.
At least a little Band-Aid or something,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and I mean, we make jokes all the time. I was actually with one of our clients the other day in our new studio, and he says, one of them says, are there tissues around here? Because our conversations are so deep that people end up crying all the time in my office.
But it's like positive, like growth stuff.
Yes. Yeah. It isn't like, oh, I hate this place. It's
get the bucket.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's I just think that if we can kind of reason with each other and communicate with each other at the level of heart, I think then we can make progress.
Yeah. Well, to say what you were talking about with your young kids and how they're always hugging at the end. I love when you see specifically children of different ethnicities.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like best friends, and
yeah.
it just shows you like grown-ups are fucking stupid. Like
Yo,
we
big
don't
time.
need to be doing this. Like clearly, this is something that's learned. It's not something that's you're not born racist. Like
Exactly.
It's beautiful when you see kids like that, but it's not enough, man. We need grown-ups doing that.
Yeah.
That's a positive note to leave on. Anyways, unless you got anything else you wanna talk about, man. I like to put this in perspective for you guys. My dad's going on hiatus, or we're going on hiatus because my dad's going to Cali for a month. February, I don't want to give you specific travel plans, but end of February. So we've been banking episodes so that you guys will have a new episode every week still during that time. And we just did, you're the second of 2 back-to-back ones tonight, and I worked overnight at the hospital last night, so I'm on 5 hours of sleep. So thank you so much for coming. I know we were playing scheduled tag for a couple weeks there, but
everything happens in the right timing, man.
yeah, man. It was great spending time with you, and I hope you'll come back.
I definitely will.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Okay, well,
my
we
man.
always high five at the end.
Hi-yow.
Boom.
All right.
Right.
Thanks, my man.
Yo, thanks. That was good, man.
Cool.